Hey guys, ready to read chapter 4 today of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea? And chapter 4 is called Two Strangers. So I guess hopefully we will find out who one of these or two of these 8 men are that Pierre and Council and Ned are about to meet. So before we read chapter 4, let's go ahead and let's talk about what happened in chapter 3 to refresh our memory. So in chapter 3, which was called Find the Beast, we didn't meet any new characters yet, at least nobody's names. So these are just four important events that sum up chapter 3, the gist of chapter 3. So Council jumped in after Pierre into the water. They swam after the Abraham Lincoln, but they got tired and they started to sink. So here is when they're talking about the water coming up over their head, that even though that they cut most of their clothes off, it was starting to get, whatever they had left on was starting to get too heavy for them. Pierre just started to describe how the water was coming up over his head and he was taking his last breath. And luckily, while this was happening to them and they basically were about to drown, Ned comes and saves them. And he's on top of this thing that he describes as a metal fish. That's why I put it in parentheses, because it's not a fish. We don't know what it is yet, but the way he's describing it is somewhat of a metal fish. They feel this fish starting to sink and go under the water, and they start banging on the ship, and somebody bangs back. And then they see this steel door that starts to open and 8 men appear. And that's where chapter 3 ended. So now let's start reading chapter 4 and hopefully we'll meet some of these men, especially since the chapter is called Two Strangers. So maybe we'll meet some new characters. Okay, I'm going to close my blinds here for you and turn this on, and maybe this will be a little bit more clear. Doesn't look you to be able to see the book. Okay, so here we go. Two Strangers. We were in the machine in a matter of seconds. I shivered all over. I had no idea what would happen. Oh, I guess it doesn't let me zoom in. Okay. At first, we were in total darkness. I couldn't see anything. I felt my feet clinging to the steps of a ladder. Ned and Council followed me. At the bottom of the ladder, a door opened. It shut with a bang. We were alone. All was black. I could hardly imagine where we were. It was a good half hour before we got some light. It appeared with 2 men. One man was short with strong muscles. He had dark hair and a black mustache. The other man was tall with good looks. The two strangers spoke to each other in a language I had never heard before. I spoke up in French and told them I didn't understand. When I got no answer, I decided to tell my story just in case they might understand a few words. I told them our names, speaking slowly about each one of us. The men listened to me. I was sure they didn't understand. I nodded for Ned to try in English. They made no reply to him either. Council then tried in German, but we got the same blank stares from the men. In a few minutes, they left, leaving us confused and scared. We talked about our situation for a few minutes. Just then, the door opened. A man entered with clothes, coats, and pants made of material I had never seen. We quickly got out of our wet things as we dressed. The man sat at the table in the room and put out 3 plates. What do you think they eat here? Asked Ned. Turtle liver and shark? To our surprise, we were treated as if we were in a nice restaurant. We ate several kinds of fish, some of which I had never tasted before. There were other foods that I enjoyed, even though I couldn't tell if they were vegetable or animal. Each of us cleaned our plates. We saw some writing on each one. This one says Mobilis and Mobile N. The letter N was probably the initial of the boat's captain. We didn't spend time thinking about that. We were tired and full from our meal. Ned and Counsel stretched out on the carpet and were soon asleep. I couldn't relax, though. My thoughts were on all that had happened to us in the last several hours. Finally, I allowed myself to rest. I fell into a deep, deep sleep in the strange monster we had found. And that's the end of chapter 4. That was very quick. So let's talk a little bit about what happened. It seems that they were just describing their experience so far in the ship. And how do you think they were feeling during this time? So I hope you were thinking that they were feeling a little bit scared. They said that in the chapter. Pierre described them as being confused and scared. Why were they confused? Hope you were thinking that they were confused because no one could communicate with them. Each of them speak a different language. I think Pierre said he's French, which makes sense because his name is Pierre. And Counsel speaks German, and Ned spoke English, and none of the other men on that ship were able to communicate with them. They had no answers, just blank stares. So that's very confusing and I'm sure uncomfortable for them. And then they seem to be nice so far. They brought them clothes, they fed them, they got a note from the captain, they think, but they're not really sure what it says because, again, they're not sure what their language is and how they communicate with them. And then they went to sleep. So this is what their experience has been like in the monster so far. So tomorrow, Friday, we'll read chapter 5, and I'm looking at it now, and it seems like it's a little bit longer, and hopefully we'll get to meet maybe the captain or some other characters in the ship. So I hope you enjoyed chapter 4, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.